Welcome back to Hey Kentucky. Now, if you've watched this show a lot, you know we talk about politics in the state and what's happening throughout the Commonwealth. But there's a big race on Tuesday that we've spent very little time talking about, and that's the Lexington mayoral race. Now, part of the reason why is it's actually been pretty boring. There are 4 really qualified candidates, and you know what? Not a lot has happened. Plus, Lexington's been rolling along pretty smoothly, so there aren't a lot of controversial issues. But there may be no race for the people of Lexington that will affect their life more than the mayoral race. So we decided to give a little insight into the candidates running and why you might want to support them as you cast your ballot on Tuesday. Now let's get started and see who is running. First is Kevin Stinnett. He's a longtime Lexington council member who also chairs the council's budget committee. Linda Gorton is a longtime city council member as well and the former vice mayor to current mayor Jim Gray. Ronnie Bastin is the former Lexington police chief and public safety commissioner under Mayor Jim Gray. Teresa Isaac is a name you may be familiar with. She is the was the former mayor of Lexington and works to train mayors around the world for the U.S. State Department. And then there's Ike Lawrence, a Lexington real estate developer who's running for office for the first time. Now, all 5 candidates have spent money. There you may see their signs throughout the city. But what they actually believe, there isn't a whole lot of difference between a lot of them. But let's look into it. Let's start with probably the biggest issue in this race, which is urban development. You may have heard that there's been a big controversy about whether or not to extend the economic development line in the city and to allow business farther in the outskirts of the city. And at the start of that was Kevin Stinnett. He's the city council member who initially did the resolution to try to look into extending the boundary. And here's what he had to say about it and his decision later to not support extending it.
Well, I voted in November to support the current boundary and do the 2-year study on where we should grow. But if someone really educates themselves and takes a look at it, we are already set our boundary through the PDR program and other measures we've taken the last 20 years. I've been chair of economic development on council the last 8 years, and I've been on the front line row of getting these businesses to want to come here, but we have to shift that focus to getting our current businesses to stay here and get them to grow as well.
Now, economic development is at the centerpiece of Stinnett's campaign. He's supported by a lot of developers in the city, and the newspaper here, the Lexington Herald, has taken him on quite a bit. But the business community seems to support Stinnett, and that is where he's found a lot of support. Now, Linda Gorton, of course, is also a city council member, and she too is focused a lot on economic development. Here is where she talked to us about the possibility of extending Lexington as a city that could be used for technology in the future.
We are positioning ourselves as the largest gigabit city in the nation. That means super high speed internet. And what that will do is draw businesses here. And my plan is to pursue those businesses where we already have strengths.
Now, another big issue here has been the rise of crime, and Ronnie Bastin, the former Lexington police chief, has understandably made that a centerpiece of his campaign. He has talked a lot about changes that need to be made to the city in order to try to reduce crime, including potentially hiring more officers, up to 40 over the next 4 years, and training former felons in order to find jobs for the future. Here's what he had to say about crime in Lexington.
Certainly we have to be tough on violent crimes, and we have to hold people accountable that commit those. And I want to increase our police force responsibly over the next 4 years. But we have to not only look at it from an enforcement standpoint, but we have to start getting beyond that and looking at some of the root causes of crime and trying to deal with those so that we prevent folks from conducting criminal activities.
Now, former Lexington Mayor Teresa Isaac is someone you know for controversy. There was, of course, the water issue when she was mayor. But she also is trumpeting the fact that when she was mayor, Lexington was considered one of the safest cities in the country.
And so when I was mayor, I attended what are called the CompStat meetings, where you work with the police officers to see what the crime crime trends are, and you try to head them off before they get worse. We were able to be named the #1 safest city in America. We were named the 7th best place to locate a business.
Now, all 4 of those candidates actually say that if Jim Gray had run, they probably would not have run. They all have a good relationship with the current mayor and say they would generally extend the policies he's done. But that is not true of Ike Lawrence. He's a very bombastic real estate developer who has some controversial views, and being against Jim Gray is one of them.
I wasn't happy with the way things were going with the Gray administration, and I did my resume this time a year ago and liked what I saw, and I decided to run this new affordable housing initiative that has taken landlords' dollars, tax dollars, and given out vouchers and taken away the landlord's clients.
Now, that's a position you don't hear a lot. Someone who believes there's too much affordable housing and it's unfair to real estate developers. But that's Ike Lawrence's position. Now, for the most part, these candidates agree on a lot. They're all against charter schools. They generally think the city of Lexington is doing well and needs to continue on its current course. And they support Mayor Gray. Really, the difference is one for most of these of style and focus. Stinnett spends a lot of time on economic development. BASTIN spends a lot of time on trying to make Lexington safer. Teresa Isaacs wants to change some of the policies in the city to back when she was mayor. And Linda Gorton has talked a lot about extending throughout the community and green spaces. Really, all of these candidates are not that far apart. And it shows where Lexington is as a city that they aren't that far apart. But the differences in their policy are so small that I actually think this race is going to be very close on Tuesday. I talked to all the candidates and their campaign managers, and they all have no idea what's going to happen. Tuesday's vote will be big. 2 will move on to the general election. And to be honest, we're not sure which 2 it is. Now, if you'd like to know more about all of these candidates, on the Hey Kentucky website at heykentucky.com and our Hey Kentucky Facebook page, you can see extended clips of our interviews with the candidates, and you should check those out to be informed for Tuesday.